Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Working Well Remotely webinar series. We will give it another moment or two to ensure that we can everybody join us. It takes a bit to load everyone into our virtual auditorium. So just hang in there another moment and we will get started. All right, we will go ahead and get started, everybody. Welcome. My name is Pamela James, and I'm the Executive Director for Campus Human Resources. And today I am your MC or facilitator for this session. It's been a year, coming up on a whole year of a lot of remote work, so I'm sure we can all benefit from today's topic on stress management strategies and relaxation techniques. We're excited about this whole series, and hopefully many of you today have already been attending some of our prior topics. Last fall, we did 7 different topics, which are available on our website. We'll put that information in the chat box right now. So if you missed those, we have recordings and PowerPoints on various tailored topics for everybody. Plus, this year's series, we have 8 topics. Today is the 5th of 8, and at the end, I'll show you what the next couple of topics are. So hope that you take advantage of those if you missed them as well. So a little bit of housekeeping before we get to the main event, and I introduce our host and speaker. First, this is a webinar, not a Zoom meeting. We all are in a lot of Zoom meetings, but a webinar format is one in which you can see the speakers, but we cannot see you. And the chat box function is disabled. Instead, you have a Q&A function, a Q&A box down at the bottom. You can feel free to enter your questions while our speaker is doing her presentation. We have a 30 minutes of content, and we've saved 20 minutes for questions. And you can also make your questions anonymous. There's a little click box if you don't want your name affiliated with it. So that's perfectly fine as well. So we look forward to the content and hearing your questions. And let me get to the main event. I'd love to introduce a member of our Chancellor's Cabinet, Kirsten Quanbeck. Kirsten is the Associate Chancellor in the Division of Equal Opportunity and Compliance. So Kirsten, we're really glad to have you here. We'd love you to tell us a little bit about your role, how long you've been at UCI, and why this topic is of interest to you.
Thank you, Pamela. Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I want to welcome you to the Stress Management and Relaxation webinar and congratulate you. Just getting yourself here is one great step towards investing in your wellness. My name is Kirsten Quanbeck, Associate Chancellor of the Division of Equal Opportunity and Compliance, which encompasses Title IX, sexual violence, sexual harassment, and discrimination prevention, the whistleblower staff, compliance, public records, policies and procedures, affirmative action, and the Americans with Disabilities Act offices and staff. I have worked with this fabulous portfolio of employees for just over 20 years. So I am really invested in both our campus community, our wellness, and our continued collaboration. As you can probably imagine from the offices I just listed, the folks that work in this portfolio see and experience trauma, fatigue, and sometimes even burnout. And particularly after this unprecedented year of world pandemic, why it's so vital for us all to have the tools to identify and reduce that stress. While I personally miss walking across campus, enjoying nature, seeing students play Frisbee, and the occasional Starbucks coffee, I've learned that maybe walking around the block can sometimes be a substitute. I'm looking forward to learning some new techniques and sharing them with my colleagues. And I hope that you will do the same for your colleagues who weren't able to join us today. I want to take some time now to introduce our speaker today, Heidi Crocker from the Susan Samueli Integrative Health Institute. Heidi is a practicing chiropractor and a yoga therapist with an emphasis in functional rehabilitation and integrative health. She currently serves as the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs at Pacific State University and is contributing faculty in the Masters of Health Sciences program at St. Augustine University for Health Science. She's not busy, is she? Heidi has owned the Integrative Wellness Centers, led yoga teacher training program since 2003, and is currently the administrative director for Alchemy Yoga Therapist Training Program. Heidi, wow, thank you for taking time to join us today. We're all very anxious to hear what you have to say, so I turn it to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Let me get this in full, there we go, full mode for you. Oops. And we'll get started here. It's an honor to be here. I've been at the Susan Samueli Institute for a little over 6 months and practicing yoga therapy here with a wide variety of patients that come through the UCI health system. And it's been a joy to meet so many people in the medical school, in the health side of the equation, and now having the opportunity to reach out to a lot of people across campus. So I appreciate you having me here today. And it is a sensitive subject, the stress management, stress in general. And I guess one of the big questions is, what is stress? You know, what is stress and what does that mean to everyone? So I'm going to try to kind of give you some ideas and approaches to look at your particular situation without delving into any one particular situation. So I'm going to encourage you as we go through this conversation today to think about your own space and to think about what's happening with you. So you might want to get maybe a little piece of paper to jot some things down as we talk so that you can kind of relate and put these ideas into action, into your particular scenario. And then we're going to actually practice a little bit. We're going to do a few things that may be new to you, new techniques to just see how you feel for some relaxation techniques. So first of all, I just want to kind of give an overview of this. And, you know, it serves us all well. It serves not just us personally, but all of the people in our environment, in our world, in our lives, if we learn how to manage our own stress. And we can't manage our own stress if we don't even understand or can identify what those elements or those factors are that create stress for us. And when my kids were young, they used to tell me, "Mom, you either need to take a nap or go to yoga," when I would start to get a little agitated with them. And they were right. I had just hit my limit of whatever was stimuli was coming at me. So the thing about what stress management is for us to learn ways to keep things in perspective and to keep things in control so that our behaviors, our actions, our thoughts don't get over our natural joyful selves, don't get overridden with burden and then change our behaviors. But as I mentioned, first, we have to understand what our stress is, your stress. You have to know, what does that mean? It's different for everyone. You have to identify maybe you're writing these down, like you have to identify what is the source. Is it, you know, your working environment right now? Is it your family? Is it the interaction of all of it? Are you worried about somebody else? Whatever that is, it your physical being? Maybe you aren't able to do the things that you naturally or normally love to do. And then you have to learn to recognize what the signals are within. One signals that I always kind of, you know, challenge is one of the first responses to stress is what our eyes do. The reaction in our eyes. You know, if there's something that's traumatic, our eyes get big. If there's something that's concerning, we kind of scrunch our face. And those are things that we typically don't know we even do. They're just natural behavior patterns. And so we have to even be aware of what our external perception is to others as we take in stress stimulus. What are your stress strategies right now? What do you do right now when you're stressed? And then how can you either improve, expand, change those strategies to be more healthy? Because we want to implement healthy strategies. We can have strategies because control our stress that maybe aren't so healthy for us. Could be that, glass of wine in the evening. It could be a little bit too much TV. It could be the ice cream at night, the donut in the morning, whatever it is. There's healthy and there's unhealthy. Just like when you are trying to make a big decision in your life, and you do a sheet of paper and you have the pros and the cons of what the outcomes are of that decision. Maybe you do the same thing with strategies. What do I do when I tend to feel this way? And what could I replace that with or add to it if it needs just a little boost of health involved? And I think one of the big things we start to have trouble with, everyone has struggles with it, is to make self-care a priority. We are blessed here at UCI. This is coming from our HR department, our human resource department, and they are implementing, they're helping us find ways and putting a priority on, as employees, as colleagues, we're putting an emphasis on self-care, on how do we take care of ourselves so that we therefore can serve others around us. And the one that's hardest is ask for support when needed. Who do you ask support from? Well, that depends. Maybe it's your spouse. Maybe it's the other people living in your household. Maybe it's a healthcare professional. Maybe it's your boss. It could be anybody that can help you self-manage the environment that you're in. So all those things kind of have to be identified before we can even, kind of have a conversation, right? But first, what is the definition of stress? This is an old definition. Of course, you could Google it and find all kinds of, different outcomes. But this was way back in 1989. Palmer said stress is a psychological, physiological, and or behavioral response to something. So when we perceive that there is something out of balance in our lives and the demands of what we physically, mentally, and emotionally can handle, then those things start to build up over time. And when they build up, that creates ill health, or we might know it as dis-ease, right? And in integrative health, we say that quite a bit. We say disease processes, but it's really dis-ease. Our bodies give us warning signs, whether it's psychological, physical, or an emotional behaviors that are showing these little lead ups to, as Christine mentioned earlier, as could potentially lead to burnout. There's an old parable that talks about, the frog. If you put a frog in a bucket of boiling water, that frog is immediately going to jump out and say, oh no, that's too hot. But if you put a frog in warm water and then over a period of time, that water gets hotter and hotter and hotter, that frog might not notice that water is now too hot and they can't handle it. And then that's not a good situation, right? So sometimes the stressors that we are perceiving, right, that are coming into us, causing a little bit of equilibrium, unbalanced in our equilibrium, then we don't really notice that until it builds up to a point that we explode or implode sometimes, right? So we have to be really, but it's reactions. I think that's the big thing. It's a reaction, it's a response, it's a reflex to external stimulation. So, but we must remember, and I think especially in our environment right now, that stress is really a helpful thing. If we, our body's reaction to external stimuli is helpful. It's a protective mechanism. It warns us against dangers. It's a natural reaction to teach us to say, it's time for you to run. It's time for you to change. Something needs to be different because this doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel good in our bodies. It's evolutionary. It's kind of come over time, in caveman days, if they were, the woolly mammoth came at them, it was stress. It was the reaction our body has to external stimuli that kept them safe and out of danger from that woolly mammoth, right? We know stress as, we tend to lead toward the negative side of it, but we must remember that in some ways it is a positive natural, innate response that our body has. It's our fight or flight, right? If you've heard of that word before, fight or flight. So and there's certain chemicals, we'll talk about that are triggered in your body to help stimulate that sympathetic nervous system and just poof, I need to protect, I need to become active, I need to charge to protect myself. And there's chemicals and hormones in our body that naturally, innately are stimulated to do that. It's now kind of been termed as the stress response, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Some of the things that the stress response does is it increases our awareness, our acuteness to our surroundings, which is a positive thing. And it also improves our physical performance, whether that be in sport or those heroic acts of nature. We've heard stories of people in combat who have lifted airplanes off of injured soldiers by themselves because they just physically, the endorphins, the adrenaline that is produced is there to help us increase our awareness and do human power, power human things, right? But only in short bursts. If it's too much at one time, or too long, or over a period of time, then that can accumulate in itself and cause harm. So repetitive exposure, meaning that you have stress after stress after stress after stress, where your body doesn't have time to recover or rebound or bring that self back to equilibrium. Or maybe it can start to affect your physical and your psychological health, okay? There's 3 particular hormones. And really this stress response is a hormonal response. The hormones responses are your endocrine system. And there's a whole big cycle of endocrine system that we're not going to get into in detail today, but you can look it up, an endocrine system, and look at that HPO axis, T axis, and those kinds of things. But the 3 hormones that are really, really influential is 1, cortisol, 2, epinephrine, and 3, adrenaline. And you've probably heard of those, right? When your adrenaline gets up, cortisol levels get too high, that affects the way your body reacts. And epinephrine, if it gets too high, it causes a suppression of your ability to think clearly, right? So you have hyper awareness of things, but so much stimuli is coming at you that you can't necessarily think clearly. And if this happens for a prolonged period of time, so it's over time that burnout occurs. And burnout, burnout was kind of this phrase of burnout was kind of created back in the 70s or 80s, and it was really focused on healthcare workers, so that the environment that they work in and the expectations of their jobs both together were so great that they couldn't ever get ahead. They could never, it was hard for them to feel, to feel proud of what they did, or take a step back and relax and say, okay, I can pause here for a moment. And so that's how that term came into being. But then it sort of has translated or been generalized to a large, greater population, especially in our environment today. Oh, I'm having a hard time getting my slide to, there we go. So what are some strategies to approach stress, whatever your stress is? And we're going to kind of break these down into 3 different ways. There's action-oriented approaches to stress, where you can actually do something. You have the autonomy, the authority, you're in a position to actually take action and do something to make that situation either go away or make it better. Then there's emotion-oriented strategies, where maybe we don't necessarily, we can't really change the situation, but we surely can perceive the situation differently. I use this, I talk about my kids again, because now they are young adults. And it's the same kind of thing. This emotion-oriented strategy is when they are trying to figure out things in their life, whether they're trying to make their own adult decisions, and I can't change that for them, but I can perceive that differently. So I can we can try to look at this from a different lens than we might naturally want to do. So we have to take a step back and be an observer. And we're going to go into some detail in all three of these areas. And the third one is acceptance oriented. And in my opinion, my humble opinion, this is really the most important because this is acceptance oriented strategy is when you really don't have control to change it. You don't have the control, let's look at what we're sitting with right now, this COVID. We don't have control over what the rest of the world is doing, what our neighbors are doing, that's impacting us in some way. So how do we accept this? And how do we deal with it while we're in while it's happening? So let's talk about action oriented just a little bit. And what is this strategy? And action oriented is that you're going to respect yourself and take care of your well-being. So what does that mean? That means that if you have the authority, the autonomy, the power, whatever you want to call it, to take action to a stressful situation, then you're honoring yourself. You can either just succumb to it and not take action, and then do you become a victim, or are you part of the problem? So if you look at this scenario, whatever it might be, and you say, I something very simple, like I don't enjoy the taste of excessive salt in my dinner, and you have the authority to cook dinner at night and not put salt in your meal. Or you can go to a fast food restaurant and you can eat a lot of salt. So you are doing self-care. You're taking care of yourself and you're taking care of your well-being. And some of the ways to do that is, one, really try to clearly and effectively communicate with those around you who are involved in your world. If somebody in your world is creating stress for you, something as simple, working from home right now, does somebody in your household tend to walk behind you when you're in a Zoom meeting every Tuesday afternoon? If you can clearly and effectively communicate with them in a kind way to say, I'd really appreciate it if you would not do this, or I need to find a new location in the house to do this meeting because this is happening. So you have control over this. You have control to manage your time, right? We have time suckers in our life. And I put this little picture here of just a few of them, not that anybody in this call gets sucked into the Instagram or the Facebook or the Twitter. And if you saw the Saturday Night Live episode recently with Daniel Levy from Schitt's Creek, if you've seen that show, and he did an episode about the time-sucking abilities of Zillow, right? We go in and we look for what other people are experiencing in other people's lives. We have the complete authority to manage our own time. Creating healthy boundaries. What is healthy for you? What is that imaginary wall that you'll put up when you say, this is not comfortable for me, this is not healthy for me, and I think a big question to ask is, what does it make you feel like? Do you like the way that makes you feel? Reducing the noise, reducing the stuff around you. We tend to be bombarded with noise to the point when you get in silence, when you get into an environment of silence, you notice the silence. We notice silence more than we notice the noise around us. So turning off the phone, turning off the TV, turning off the news, even if it's just for a brief moment. We're going to get to do that when we practice just in a little while. And the last one is just to get out of your own head. Sometimes we just have to step away, doing something that engages us from the deepest core that has nothing to do with our thoughts. And a lot of times this is repetitive things, taking a walk, getting into a hobby that you enjoy, watching a really good movie that's just so engaging, it just enthralls you to the point that you have forgotten about the whole world around you. So those are some action steps you can take if you have the ability to take action. So what are some emotional oriented approaches? We do have the ability to choose how we think. We have the ability to say, I'm going to look at this situation through this lens versus that lens. And, I teach a class in ethics and healthcare. And, the biggest focus is you can't teach someone to be ethical. You can only teach them strategies and processes and systems for making good decisions, for the decision-making process. And so we can make a decision for ourselves to think and look at something from a different lens. And some strategies to help you do that. Affirmations in imagery. So do you image taking a situation, a scenario that you might be in, and just closing your eyes and visualizing how you can look at this from a different perspective. If I could look at this any way, how would it be? And to visualize what that outcome would look like. Cognitive restructuring. Now, this is a little bit more challenging, and you might need a little help with this one because it is a science. It's a processing strategy to help look at our outlook on a situation from what we call a holistic view, meaning that we're looking at it from all views that could come in. So if you think about the sun and all the beams of the sun, and looking at that sun from different beams, you're going to see different colors, you're going to see different light, you're going to have different heat. And so it's just a way to train our brain to say, and it's a learned process. You can practice it and you can learn how to cognitively restructure how you view situations. And this third strategy is called the ABC technique. ABC, adversity. What is the adversity? What is standing in front of you? And then you identify it. You say, from a holistic view, right? What is it? This person, this situation, I'm going to say a person. This person is causing me harm. And in the Yoga Sutras, we have one of the sutras is called Ahimsa, is do no harm. Do no harm, not only to other people, but don't let other people do harm to you. So if this person is creating harm for you, you've looked at that adversity. And then what are your beliefs? What are your morals? What are your deep down, honest, ethical beliefs and your moral foundation that just can't be crossed, right? And if you stand up for what your moral beliefs are, you have to make a decision. If I do this, here's the adversity. If I stand up for myself or I make this decision, what are the consequences? And if all of those things align for you, then you can make that emotional decision to look at that event in a different light. So the third one is acceptance oriented. Acceptance oriented is you accept your thoughts, you accept the situation, you accept your feelings, and you take care of yourself, no matter what that is. So if you have a particular person in your world, or maybe you're in a situation, maybe there's a project at your job that you really are just struggling with and you don't necessarily enjoy it, but there's nothing you can do about it until you get through it. It's a very high stress situation. It's causes you distress, or it causes you some dis-ease within your body. Maybe you get into that scenario and your heart starts beating faster and you feel your jaw clenching, can't sleep that evening when you get home, you're a little short with people, you don't answer your phone when certain people call. Those are all signs and symptoms of something being stressed. But the way, this is the one that we can really help with. And I love this picture. I love this picture because all these things here, diet and exercise, these two people are obviously enjoying each other, right? They're having a good laugh. They're sitting on their yoga mats and they're enjoying healthy food. And just a few minutes of those kinds of activities can really be helpful. Then we have this little thing that's hanging over all of our heads, and that is COVID-19. So I just wanted to give you a little statistics that was talking about stress levels, the widening gender gap in negative mental health impacts as a result of the situation that we're living in. And as you can see, over the total amount, both men and women have, in a 1 week period of time on this, this is a American Psychological Association survey, in a 1 week period of time, the increase in stress levels in men and women both. So we're going to talk about a few relaxation techniques. So we've got some strategies ways to approach, and now let's look at some different techniques of how to find some relaxation. First, know your stress level. What is your stress knowledge? And those are some of those questions that we asked earlier. Can you identify them? Observe your thoughts as an outsider. So stepping out of yourself and coming inside. Try some relaxing music. Schedule time in your calendar to de-stress. The ones that I know best, deep breathing exercises, visualization, that imagery, the affirmation. If you're a game player, you like to play games, find some time to play games. Do some yoga. The National Institute of Health has a whole book now, an ebook that you can get. You can download this ebook that I have here for you and learn how practicing yoga, even a few minutes, a few times a week, can impact certain conditions. Socialization, our community, our sangha, as we call it in yoga. So being in groups, having that social connection is very important. Even if that means you have to do it through some media sources. You can't be with people physically, but you can now connect to this whole big world of people who have like interests. And podcasts can take you away. Somebody said recently, there was a study that was talking about they were having a challenge in reading books right now. Their stress level is so high and there's so much external stimulation coming at them that they have a hard time concentrating on the written word, but they can get absorbed into an audiobook or a podcast. So there was just some options for you there. And then there's some options for you that we offer at the Susan Samueli Center Institute that you might want to take advantage of. I'm going to talk about yoga for just a minute. The NIH has done some great studies on this to look at they do a survey every few years on the increase in use of yoga that may correlate somewhat with the increases in stress levels that we've seen over time. And there's just some information about why people come to use yoga as a source of acceptance in their life for stress. And over 60% of yoga users were motivated to exercise more. They came to this for wellness reasons. And at the Susan Samueli Institute, we are offering some virtual yoga classes. And I put the schedule on here because they are free to anyone in the UCI system through the end of March. So you can go to the website and you can register for those classes. I teach the Monday night class at 5:30. Amy Harper teaches the other two classes on Tuesday and Wednesdays. And again, you do them in the comfort of your own home, gives you a little taste to see if it's something that makes a difference in your stress levels. So that's available to you. In the future, we're going to be offering specialized 6 weeks classes. They haven't quite started yet, but but we're surveying people, and hopefully you'll get a survey soon to see which ones you'd be interested in. So that's up and coming. And then we also offer one-on-one yoga sessions. So that's what we offer to the community. And those are offered to not only the UCI community, but for all patients. And so I'd like to just take 2 minutes to teach you a little movement technique. So I'm just going to slide a little bit away from my chair, and I hope you guys will join with me for just a moment. So we're just going to take a minute here and to sit with, so sit up on the edge of your chair and place both feet on the floor. And just take your right hand and place the right hand on your belly, just like around your belly button. And the left hand right at the chest, about where your heart is. And just close your eyes for a moment. You can just listen to my voice. And relax the jaw. Maybe separate the teeth, resting the tongue on the back of the top front teeth. And soften around the eyes. And between the eyebrows. If there's any tension, try to feel as if there's a gentle breeze blowing in your face. Just feel the back of your neck where it meets your head, the base of the head. And going full circle, relax the jaw. See if you can let go of some tension in the back of the head where it meets your neck, just by softening the jaw. We'll take our attention to the breath. You have your hands, one on the belly, one on the chest. And we're going to all come together and just let all your air out, exhaling. And we're going to inhale for the count of 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Feel your hands move. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, feel the hands move together. 3, 2, 1. Inhale, belly comes out, chest expands. 3, 4. Exhale, 4. Let any tension drift away with the breath. 2 more breaths. Inhale, 1. Hands move together. 3, 4. Exhaling out any tension in your shoulders. Relax the eyes. Relax the neck. 1 more breath. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And just taking the hands down to your thighs, listening to the silence. And then gently open your eyes and just take a nice relaxing breath. And I want to thank you all for listening today. And I will be honored to take any questions or comments that you might have. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Heidi. That was fabulous.
Thank you. Nice, great to share.
Thank you. We do have some questions for you. So thank you for staying with us for just a few minutes. Our first question, I had a lot of high stress events during a particular year. The following year, it manifested in weight gain, GI problems, and other health concerns. Can you repair the damage to your body and improve your immune system after experiencing long-term stress?
Yes, you can. And a lot of that goes back to that conversation of the endocrine system and cortisol and the cortisol levels in your body. And so working to balance that system out can start to recalibrate, find that equilibrium in your metabolism and your energy levels and the endocrine parts that are all involved in that. So I would encourage you to talk to somebody about, checking, that your endocrine levels and things like that, hormone levels. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Okay, and from another attendee, and I think this was in reference to some of the information you shared about mental health. Women are more likely to admit this than men, right?
I think as a generalized term, that is correct. I think that we're more willing to express externally our needs and our feelings. I think if you look at studies, and I can't cite them off the top of my head, but I think men have a tendency to internalize that. I think that may be some historical ingrained behaviors, and maybe it's innate. It's just a natural tendency. I don't know. I'm not a cognitive neuroscience to study the differences, but I do believe it's women tend to be more willing to search for external sources for help versus taking it all internally.
Thank you. Okay. What is the difference between yoga and deep breathing technique? Is yoga more beneficial than deep breathing exercise with regard to decreasing stress level?
Well, yoga is a combination of four main things. Physical movement, which we call asanas, that's the physical practice. Pranayama, which is the breathing, which can be deep breathing, it can be energizing, it can be relaxation breath, it can be deep breath, energizing breath. And then meditation or single focused attention is kind of where we really call that. And the fourth one being lifestyle changes. So yoga brings all of those elements together. Deep breathing, relaxation breath is one element of yoga. It's also used in mindfulness. It's also been kind of extrapolated out for a lot of mental health care type things. Mm-hmm. So yoga is the physical movement is a big part of that, as well as breathing and meditation.
And we all just got to experience a little deep breathing there. So
yeah.
A little harder for us to do yoga while we're on Zoom, but
yeah,
it's like something we could all participate in, even on Zoom. Mm-hmm. You mentioned podcasts. Are there specific meditation or relaxation podcasts you would recommend?
Yes, there is an app called Calm that I tend to like a lot, and it may give you areas. Some people like to listen to podcasts that are like motivational speakers and that type of thing, and there's a ton of those. But the app Calm has short segments that is such a diverse variety. You can listen to music, you can listen to somebody talk if you need to hear some kind of a encouraging word. So that's one particular one that I like, and I think it's free.
Excellent. I am saying there are others who are weighing in saying Calm is great.
Yeah.
So perfect. Thank you. I like the group think here. Do you have a recommendation for how many times a week or day that we should practice relaxation techniques like yoga?
Well, I think that's an individualized, this is kind of a challenging question to answer, but I think it's important for people, as a general statement, to take a minute in the morning, every morning, to check in with yourself. So maybe even before you get out of bed, it's like, what am I bringing into this day, starting out before any stimulus has really occurred. And I like to use the reminder of anytime I'm changing. If I'm moving from work to home, it's a time to check in. Or if I'm moving from dinner and then you're going into sleep, it's time to check in. So it could just be a 2-minute to 5-minute check-in. And then periodically, maybe, twice a week, 3 times a week, doing a full, more extensive 20, 30, an hour practice. Yeah. But on a daily basis, I think periodically throughout the day, it's worth, and that keeps things from accumulating.
Thank you. I have one last question.
Yes.
How can we help others when we see people around us exhibiting signs of stress? Do you have suggestions for a way to make recommendations without seeming judgmental or preachy?
I think do something for them, and something that they appreciate. And if there's something that they like to do that you can join with them, and instead of saying, come with me to let's go do this because you like it, go, what do you like to do? And maybe you have the space to try it with them.
Excellent suggestion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. I'm seeing no
Good
more questions. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I thank you all very much. I appreciate your time. And I did just find out that anybody who has Kaiser does have access to the app, Calm app, free. But so just thought I'd
Good
share
information. Everyone, go check and see if you can get it for free. I think there might be some opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Heidi, Kirsten,
Yes.
we thank you so much. This has been really awesome. I feel chill. I feel great. And many people were saying, oh, we can't wait to get the slides. And someone just replied after our couple of minute meditation relaxation technique, wow, is what they said. So
Oh, great.
It's amazing how powerful a short amount of time practicing what you showed us can really, it's powerful, can make a big difference. So,
yeah. Well, great. That's great. That's great feedback. I appreciate that. It's a pleasure being here.
Really, really glad to have you. And Kirsten, thank you so much for joining us as co-host. And all of you who attended today, we had over 120 attendees. We have 2 more weeks left of this series. Next week, we have Dr. Willie Banks as a co-host for creating resilience in the workplace. And then we wrap it up with financial help. And our co-hosts are Peter Schneider and Brian Hervey. So you get access to a campus council and our Vice Chancellor of Advancement. So hope to see all of you over the next couple of weeks. Tuesdays at 11, we will be here. Have a wonderful afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.